Hello everyone, this is Roman with iJam Studio. I'm here to bring you guys a tutorial on dialing in some drum sounds here in Pro Tools. And what we see here is just some clean bare tracks of drums tracked here to a click track. And what we got here is the kick, the snare, tom, it's all labeled there. Everything's flat and everything's zeroed out, so let's take a quick listen. See what we got here. All right, so we see everything's pretty much flat and everything's actually in the middle. So what I like to do is get stuff panned to where they need to go exactly. So the first tom, I usually pan it to the left to about there. Pan this one over a little bit to about there. And then the floor tom, I pan pretty much the opposite of the first tom. And then here with the cymbals, I like to hard pan them. So this one's the right one. This one's the left one. And it opens stuff up just a little bit so we could hear, like, if we go to a drum fill or even just with the overheads panned, you'll be able to hear a difference in the mix. So you see that there, everything's panned nice and good for stereo balance. So let's go to the kick drum here first. What I like to do is actually put a gate on very first thing, because there tends to be a lot of cymbal bleed and a lot of toms coming through that microphone. We'll use that one here. I like to use presets and just tweak from them. So if we got a kick expander right here, you kind of just adjust the ratio and the threshold to where it sounds best. The trick is, for me, when doing drums, is to do what sounds the best. My whole goal is to get the drums to sound as if you were standing right in front of them, and or even in the same room as them, because we'll see later we'll add some reverb to them to make them sound like they're in a nice sounding room. Since all this here is close mic, you don't really get that sound. We just have a quick, 7 mic setup. Sometimes on the kick, I use a sub kick, but for what we're doing here, to show you guys, most of you don't have sub kicks. I may do a later tutorial on getting the sub kick dialed in, but for what we have here, no sub kick. So let's hear what we got here. Let's solo out the tracks so we could listen in. Sounds really, really short, so we could probably bring the threshold down. Bring the threshold down, turn the hold up, about there, turn the release up a little bit. Hear a little bit of the snare coming through still, so turn the release down a little bit. All right, so that's pretty good there. Now what I like to do is put some compression on. Just not too much. I don't like to smash it too much, but again, I use presets here and just kind of dial it in. just to fatten it up just a little bit. Then the real trick, what I've learned in my experience, is the real trick to getting stuff sounding good is EQ, because with close miking, sometimes there's a lot of bad EQ in it. So we pulled this here 7-band EQ, and what I like to do is just do it by ear. I don't like to do a typical pattern of, I always know there's 200 hertz here in the kick drum, so I just roll it out. I do it a lot by ear. So I kind of just grab it up and find the frequency that is not sounding good. Sounds like it's about right there. So let's use this orange one. Kind of roll it out. Clears it up a little bit. Also hear a little bit of kind of like mids about right there. Roll them out a little bit. That's actually not a little bit, but I do it to what sounds good. I'm not worried about what it looks like here. I'm worried about what it sounds like. So So that cleans it up a little bit. And I know on this particular track, the beater that was used was actually a plastic beater, so I'll probably pull up the high end here a little bit to kind of bring out that attack of the plastic beater. That's probably pretty good there. Let's jump ahead. It's pretty good. Really, in the end, when everything's mixed, you may adjust from there to see exactly how you want stuff to sound like as far as your EQ and everything. But this is just a quick basic. This is what I do. I go one by one and get stuff dialed in. So let's go here to the snare and see what we got here. So it sounds like there's quite a bit of cymbal bleed, but typically I don't put a gate on the snare just because I like to pick up the little accented notes and that sort of stuff. So you just got to be careful with your EQ to make sure you're not pulling up the cymbals too much in that mic. So let's go compression again. Get another preset here, snare compression. Just barely rolling it off to fatten it up a little bit. Now let's put some EQ. All right, same way that I did the bass drum, we're gonna do the snare drum here. So we see, sounds like it's about here. Let's pull it out. Maybe pull it out a little bit more. Let's adjust the Q so it's a little bit more precise. That sounds about right to me. There we go. Sounds all right. Let's see what it sounds like with the bass drum. I think we could probably bring up the attack of that plastic beater a little bit, just to kind of even it out with the attack of the snare. There we go. All right, so that's pretty good there. So let's take it over to the toms. Usually with the toms, you put generally the same EQ if you're using the same mic, but you'll end up still tweaking it to see. With toms, since they're not played as constantly or as much as the bass drum or snare, I like to just loop it in right here just so you'll hear the tom played over and over. Sometimes it gets a little annoying, but you'll be able to get used to it after a while. And I like to pan it back to the middle just so you have the EQ available in both ears instead of just coming out of one side. You could hear it in both. So these ones, the toms, we definitely put gates on because the cymbals will just accumulate through those mics. As you can see right here, the cymbals come through quite a bit in the tom mics. And you can see in the snare, it's not as much. The bass is not as much, but the tom mics pick them up quite a bit. So again, let's go with expander gate. I have a preset here, which I believe came from a kick expander gate, which I adjusted. And you'll be able to see the settings there. So let's see what that sounds like. Let's pull it out a little bit so we see what the decay sounds like. Make sure it doesn't sound too robotic or like a sample. It's pretty good. Guess I could live with that. So you can see here, let's see if this hit right here opens it. See right there, it opens it a little bit. So let's move it up about past there. And again, we'll end up going back and adjusting it. If you hear cymbals coming through where they shouldn't be, just go back and adjust them. So that sounds pretty good. So again, let's dial it in so we could EQ it. Let's actually put the compression on it. And then, let's see. The tom, I think, was actually taken from a snare compression. Let's try the tom's tight. Let's see what that one sounds like. To me, that sounds a little bit too tight, so let's bring down the threshold a little bit. And then I'm just going to save this as a preset for the other ones. All right, so let's see what it looks like we're clipping out. Let's bring this gain down. All right, so now let's get into EQing it, where it's not sounding too bad, but there's still some EQ that I don't think should be there to get it to sound like if you were standing right in front of it. So it's typically about the same area as all the other mics. So that cleans it up a bit. That sounds about right. Oh, and I actually didn't discuss what mics I'm using. I'm actually using some cheaper mics. They're actually CAD mics, which came in like a 7 set of mic package. And they're not too expensive, but you could get them dialed in pretty good. So let's keep on moving on here. Let's do the same thing here. Let's get the expander on. Let's do the tom. See what it sounds like. I'm going to move kind of quick here because the toms are essentially the same. Let's make sure that it's not pulled back a little bit. All right, now let's do compression. It's a little bit tedious with these, but just for sake of knowing what to do, breeze through them here. Now EQ. I didn't really listen to that last one just so you get the idea with what we're doing here. And then with this, we can kind of solo both of them out and see how they're sounding. So they're matching pretty good. So right there, let's pull that down. Sounds like the attack on the second one's a little bit different, which is understandable. Could adjust it a little bit later. All right, now let's go to right here. We get the floor tom coming in. Again, let's do an expander. Let's do the tom expander, pull it back a little bit. Compression. Let's see that one. Again, let's get some EQ. This one sounds really bad. So let's adjust it here. Let's roll it out. There we go. There we go. Sounds all right. Live with that. Let's pan this back to where it was. There we go. So let's hear